All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the NEER Study Club. Tonight, I'm super excited to announce maybe a new member. Most of you might have already met her with your clinical onboarding. Our very own Heather Livesay. Um, she recently came on to NEER. She has a ton of clinical background, and she's going to be leading a lot of these study clubs moving forward. So with that, Heather, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, so we're going to be reviewing patient selection today, bonding protocol, and going over patient aftercare, along with looking at some cases before and after photos. So let's get started. So when we're discussing bringing NEER into your practice, we like to start with our first three cases that are very important. The first one is going to be um, either a staff member, a family member, or a friend, and that'll allow you to gain experience and optimize that workflow. Case number two, you can kind of sell it as an entry level discount smile makeover. It's the summertime. You can maybe post it as a raffle on social media. And then case number three, you can charge full price. You will be a certified NEER provider and grow your practice. So I like to remind everyone that improvement does not mean imperfection. So not everyone's going to be a perfect patient for us. Not everyone's ready for porcelain veneers, but improvement matters. Confidence matters, and sometimes a beautiful, affordable smile is much better than what the patient already had it. So let's talk about the perfect candidate for our product. We will be happy to provide NEERs for case or class ones, class twos, division two rather than division one. We don't want to add more to a protrusive smile. Narrow arch spacing, peg laterals are totally acceptable. And when it comes to staining, we want to stay away from moderate to severe and focus on mild. Because our veneers are so transparent, translucency is a factor. We want to make sure that those stains don't show through our veneers. And then the patients that we actually end up rejecting for veneers are class three edge to edge, people with poor oral hygiene, poor perio, people who have anterior restorations, protrusive teeth, and also moderate to severe grinders. So we need a couple of things from you in order to create the perfect smile for your patients. We asked you to provide us a facial profile, facial smiling, and an at-rest photo. And the at-rest needs to be in repose, so that way we can see um, the symmetry of the smile in relation to the face. And along with that, we need a really good scan. A scan is very important. We don't need all the extra gum tissue. 2 millimeters of gum tissue is perfectly acceptable. And we ask that you upload it in PLY instead of STL because our designers like to use color file, whereas STL files come in grayscale. All right, so we have our first good case example. This person has a diastema and a little bit of staining, but otherwise a really nice smile. And as you can see here, an after photo got rid of that diastema completely and brightened his smile. This case is a little stained generally, and it looks like he might have had an accident in his earlier days. Looks like we have a little wear on these three anterior teeth. And as you can see here, we brightened up his smile tremendously. And I like to recommend that patients are welcome to whiten the opposing teeth, but not the veneers. And this patient looks to have had maybe some severe perio issues, enamel degeneration of some sort. I had a doctor recently come to me with a patient who overcame bulimia and wanted to, get her a smile makeover essentially. And so her teeth kind of looked like this. And I think that would be a really excellent gift to give someone. And as you can see here, it looks like the patient kept their word and kept up with their good oral hygiene, which is key for keeping their veneers longer.
I also just want to interject right here, Heather. The Q&A is open, so feel free to use that. Drop in questions as we're reviewing cases. If you have a patient in mind, use the Q&A feature, and we will answer it.
So this case specifically, all I really notice is interproximal staining and some incisal edge wear. Right here, if you notice, in comparison to the veneers, it looks like the enamel, the doctor might have reduced the enamel and polished this to make it more equal to the other one. And it turned out very nice. It doesn't look like we needed to do much of anything else. And this is one of our really bad cases that we do not recommend. We will reject this one. Anything class 3, anything edge to edge is a big no-no, especially due to the fact that they will probably break their veneers off within a few days. This patient maybe could have been recommended some orthodontic work and then veneers. As long as we got rid of that spacing, then we could talk about placing veneers. And this is another bad case. If you notice back here, we are open in the posterior, which means we're putting a lot of pressure and force on the anteriors. Right here, we're touching edge to edge on the laterals and the canines, which means that at some point, those 4 veneers are going to fracture, chip, or fall off. This is a tough case, in my opinion. Right here, my first glance, I see protrusion, and that is a no for us. We don't want to add volume to protruding teeth. We don't want them to accidentally crack their teeth on a glass or something that, they might be sipping on or something like that. Other than that, we have generalized staining. There are focused stains that are specifically darker than the majority of the teeth. So that is another no, simply because that might show through the veneer more so than some of the natural enamel appearance. Other than that, I just wouldn't recommend this one. You can try a moment just to show the patient what they are capable of having, maybe after some minimal ortho, maybe some aligner work. But other than that, they should probably take care of their staining first. Okay, so when we're talking about procedure setup, I know every doctor has their own arsenal of burrs that they prefer to use. This is just an example of what you can use. From the moment you get the case in the mail, you will receive the veneers on a model, and we recommend you try the veneers on the model, make sure they fit well next to each other. Make sure you don't want to do any adjustments, but if you do, that is the time to do adjustments to the contacts to make sure they lay nicely on the teeth. You can do a water fit, or even you can do a try and paste fit on the model. Okay, so we're going to talk about prepping two different surfaces, the restoration and the tooth itself. So the restoration, there's a couple ways to prep this. Air abrasion, first and foremost. Then when you, for example, use try-and paste, you want to remove that try-and paste using maybe a cotton swab, some acetone or alcohol, and then rinse and air dry that extremely well. After that, use monobond silane for 60 seconds and make sure it's not expired. Air dry that completely. Use a layer of Adhese Universal, air dry and do not cure. And then you can place Variolink Aesthetic. Now, be sure when you are applying the cement that you apply more than you think you need to avoid voids or air pockets behind that veneer. So when you cement that and you cure that, it's going to look funny and you'll most likely have to redo it. Okay, when we do prep on the tooth surface, we are going to use plain pumice or you can air abrade, to each their own. If it's pumice, make sure there is no fluoride in it. Isolate extremely well, rinse and dry thoroughly. Use etch for 20 to 30 seconds. Rinse and dry. Apply Adhese Universal. Air dry that. And then you're going to cure the Adhese Universal on the tooth surface. So just to recap, don't cure Adhese Universal on the intaglio surface of the veneer. Do cure it on the tooth. Okay, so when we talk about bond failures, I just wanted to touch on this. Usually we know in the clinic that it's our fault if it happens within 24 hours. If we have a patient that calls and says, hey, my veneer fell off, it's probably cause of interference of the chemical bond. And if a patient calls 3 months down the line and says, hey, my veneer cracked, it could be more caused by what they were eating. So be sure to do a little research and that'll help you understand where you can do better next time. So this is a prime example of half chemical bond failure, half mechanical bond failure, but this also could have been caused by not adding enough cement. Whereas this case, for example, is a really good chemical bond. Maybe they bit down on their acrylic nail or on a straw or a candy cane and the veneer just popped right off. And this is our class 3. No, we're not going to do a class 3. We refuse to do them. So please don't send them to us. But you can see a good example of a failure right here because of the occlusion. This case right here is a chip, so it's not a full failure. It can easily be repaired with a little bit of composite, but if you wanted to redo it, you're welcome to. Sometimes if we have a void in the intaglio surface, it'll cause a weak point. So that said, it'll fracture or crack or chip. Other than that, maybe again, they were chewing on the wrong things and it just was enough pressure to chip that tooth. Okay, to avoid white spots, make sure you follow our bonding protocol. It is very important. I try to drive that point home. We use the Ivoclar system for a reason because it works. So please make sure you prep the intaglio surface and the tooth surface as mentioned. And if for whatever reason any surface becomes contaminated, please start over. All right, so this is an example of our either a void or the wrong colored composite cement. Right there, we can see that. And then we can see over the next few weeks that this occurred. So it got a little darker as the cement settled. And this one is really fun, pink veneers. So this happened because of one of two reasons. Maybe there's an interference. We had some heme get caught underneath the veneer and they cured it anyways and it showed up pink through the veneer. Or maybe there was a void and it led out to the margin, and when they were eating or drinking red wine, it seeped into the veneer. Okay, so patient aftercare is super important. We, as clinicians, want to make sure that our patient is protecting their investment. So make sure that you drive home these few points. Ideally, brush after every meal. I know not everyone keeps a toothbrush in their back pocket, so make sure they at least rinse with water. Have a cup of water with them, a bottle of water. Make sure they floss once a day. Uh, do not use their teeth as tools. Keep up with the cleanings as scheduled. And again, don't try to whiten your veneers. And most importantly, please make sure that these patients are wearing some form of night guard. It can be a splint, it can be a thick night guard, or it can be a hard soft, or even an Essex. Just kind of depends on the patient's jaw if they have TMJ issues or not. Okay, so over time, we have patients that have come back to us saying, hey, my veneers, they just don't seem as shiny as they were when I first got them. So we do have the option to reglaze. The Rodin nitrogen-free glaze was used on this patient specifically, and it turned out really nice. So all you'd have to do is remove the glaze layer, the original glaze layer, with a white stone, and then contour if needed. Use ceramic polishers, and then go through with the nitrogen-free glaze protocol. And for whatever reason, if you have a veneer chip off, come off completely, or a patient's just like, I want to go back to my original teeth, can we remove them? Absolutely. Keep it simple. Use a high speed, a composite burr. Keep reducing down till you get to the finest burrs. Carefully remove the veneer completely, the cement completely. I know some doctors use a blue light. That way they can ensure they get all of the glue off. And then you can use a one gloss composite polisher to bring their enamel back to life. And I will mention, some people are using a laser to remove veneers, but we don't have the perfect workflow for that yet, so I won't mention it today. So just remember to keep it simple. All right.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Heather. Just a quick reminder that Q&A is open, so feel free to drop questions down there. You could also, if you feel like talking to us, raise your hand and I will unmute you. Happy to do that. We're happy to hear from you. This is meant to be collaborative. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear what's going on. We want to see what we can't do to help. But kind of with that being said, Heather, I just wanted to ask kind of like one question. If like a patient is a severe bruxer, in your mind, is that like a no-go, or is that something that you maybe would pair with the condition of like wearing a night guard?
So I would love to say yes, but that is a big no. Um, our veneers do wrap ever so slightly around the incisal edge. And so if it is mild, we say yes. If it is moderate to severe and we already see a third of that tooth enamel gone or dentin, then we're going to say no, I'm sorry. And we don't want to waste the patient's money. We don't want to waste the doctor's time.
That's great. And then in your recommendation, when it comes to the seating sequence and like curing sequence, are you doing thinking quadrant by quadrant or working from the centrals out?
So definitely from the centrals out. If we work from left to right, being human, sometimes it won't be positioned perfectly on the tooth, and then we might have like a half tooth difference by the time we get to the other side. So focus on the centrals and then work your way out to the laterals, so on and so forth. Be sure to cure fully for 60 seconds every single veneer. Um, I had a doctor come to me last week and say, I think I messed up and I didn't cure fully. And uh, his patient came back 3 weeks later and said, I have green veneers. And I guess this patient has a diet maybe full of turmeric or something. And so that stain kind of seeped underneath the veneer and they had to redo the whole case.
We definitely don't want fun colored veneers. We want,
No,
you
not
know,
unless it's
that
Halloween.
not unless it's Halloween. It's not in NEER's pipeline yet for the fun colors. Now, when it comes to like getting the patient in the chair and getting the patient to say yes in a try on phase, what do you recommend for trying on the veneers? Would you rather a doctor do water or try in paste, or how would a doctor make sure that A, all the veneers seat well in the patient's mouth, and B, the patient actually likes and approves the smile?
So let's do the patient liking and approving the smile. We have what's called the moment. And so that is our version of the try-on smile. And it can be a really helpful tool to convert a patient into veneers just by allowing them to see what they would look like with veneers on. They can try it in the chair for a few minutes, take a picture of themselves, send it to a friend, say, oh my gosh, look at my smile. Or they can go as far as to get a little bit of denture paste and take it out to a party. Just make sure not to eat with it in. Tell your patients that they are temporary. They're only supposed to last a moment. Um, so that being said, when it comes to making sure all the veneers fit, we want to ensure we try them on the model first and then try them on the patient. And we're going to try them in with try and paste. And at that time, have the patient look in a mirror, have the patient kind of stare at themselves, kind of talk it through that with them, see what they like, what they don't like. And at that time, you can make adjustments, fine tune each veneer to their liking before you bond.
We actually have a question from a doctor here. Can you spot bond the moment and have the patient try it at home? Would you recommend spot bonding for the moment?
No.
I can actually speak a bit more to that. So the moment is actually one single piece. So if we spot bond it, there's a potential for like stuff to build up behind it and get really dirty and nasty in the patient's mouth. Denture paste is a really good tool to use, as Heather said, or just kind of putting it in place and having the patient kind of walk around and, do all of those things. But I like that question. That's a good one.
Yes.
Uh, Question came in. What do you mean by denture paste? Do you mean denture adhesive? Yes,
Yes.
which is a long term but temporary adhesive. Uh, is the try on moment made from the same material as the final?
Good question.
Yeah.
No.
No, it's slightly different, but it's the same design. So the moment actually, we have a slightly different material that's a bit more flexible than the veneers. The shades are super comparable, and the design is the exact same though.
Mhm.
But we found that when we made it with the veneer material, if you looked at it wrong, it would break. Hence the name moment kind of came about. Any other questions? I saw somebody raise their hand, but I think they left. I don't see any more raised hands. Any other questions from anybody on the call? Anybody have like a patient coming up that, they have some concerns about?
I'm happy to answer any questions I can, and if not, I will email you answers once I figure them out.
We have a good one here. So, do we tell the patients that the final will look better, more natural, glossier, better embrasures, etc., but bulkiness should feel about the same?
That was well said. So it'll be thinner in some spots. We try to make sure that the moment will last a little bit, even like to allow them to remove it and place it. But essentially, it'll look nicer.
Yeah. I also have Dr. Joyce Kong, who's pretty active in the clinical lounge. If you just ask her
Mhm.
in the clinical lounge, she'll tell you what she does with her moments. But the little secret or tip that she shared with me is she actually touches up the embrasures right before the patient comes in. It takes like 5 minutes in the chair, just quick touch up. You got to be careful not to break it in half, but even if you do, it's just for the try on. But you can take that moment and make it look 10 times better with just like a quick bit of editing. Otherwise, just coach the patient that, hey, the finals obviously aren't going to be one individual piece. Any risk of veneers breaking while sandblasting? Any tips not to break them?
Yeah, so hold them gingerly. Um, we're going to use 50 micron aluminum oxide, nothing stronger, nothing bigger. And we're going to hold that away from the intaglio surface. I would say one or two little puffs and you're done. We don't want to stand there and hold that button down with a stream. It will bore out a hole through that veneer.
I think that makes sense. Just two
Yep.
little puffs from a decent distance away. Not much needs to be done. And our veneers from the lab already come sandblasted. We only really recommend it if you're doing steps like try and paste or things like that, just to make sure that you regain back some of that mechanical grip. How do you hold them while sandblasting in order for it to not drop? We should just take you, Heather, and just have you record this.
I think we need to do that for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. I have tiny hands, so I mean I don't know, I just hold it and puff puff. But I know there's an instrument out there that looks like a little cattle prod that you can hold a veneer with and then work on it. I don't know what that's called.
are
I
you
can
talking about sticks where it has the sticky end at the?
Yes, but I've also seen where you have like two diamond burrs that are kind of attached at the bottom and you like twist and hold it in there.
So if water is used, no sandblasting needed. Also embedding them in PBS, will that help
Embedding them in PVS, like putty just to hold it still. I don't see why not.
during
And that would also
sandblasting?
protect the facial surface from
Yeah,
getting accidentally sandblasted.
yeah,
Good
that would
idea.
be a nice little hack.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you only use water for trying, which should be good enough, keep in mind if you're using like an Optigate just from somebody that has gone through the process. If you're using an Optigate for the try-on process, like wet the inside and like the lips of the patient because they might dry out and just like immediately pick up those veneers. That was like at least my case when I tried on my veneers. The Optrogate kind of dried out my lips a little bit, and then when it came time for me to look in the mirror, like I had to like hold my lip up so that they wouldn't touch. What color or type of cement do you use for final cementation?
Transparent.
And then which brand transparent cement?
Ivoclar, Variolink Aesthetic specifically.
Yeah. I We've seen the best success out of all cases with Ivoclar, specifically Variolink Aesthetic Transparent. Um,
Yeah, if we
we,
start getting into cement that has shade, it takes away from the natural look of the veneers.
yeah, it can give a flat tone to the
Mhm.
patient's teeth and kind of like that plasticky look. Questions have been rolling in now. Are there any other questions? We'll give a couple more seconds here before we start wrapping up. And while we do, I'm going to give a heads up to everybody. Next week's study club is going to be in a bit different direction than tonight's, but don't worry, Heather will be back on a regular cadence. So if you ever have questions for her, we'll be hosting multiple study clubs with Heather coming up. Next week's study club, I'm going to be hosting it with somebody that you may know from NEER's Instagram, Luke. He is uh, essentially a social media expert, a video expert. He's going to come on and talk about how to build your brand on Instagram and how to shoot the right content without needing to invest in a bunch of different tools, cameras, lighting systems. Um, as far as I know, there is no transparent shade. Do you mean the neutral shade? Yes, we do. Neutral shade. Good correction on that one.
Thank you. Yep.
But next week, we'll be talking about how to film content. You'll be able to ask questions from kind of a social media pro that works with a ton of big brands, including NEER, on our content. And essentially, we'll be there to help you grow your Instagram and social media profiles and learn how to do that simply. We'll leave it open for a little bit longer if there's any more questions. But if there aren't no more questions and something comes to you later tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, never hesitate to drop it in the clinical lounge. Really appreciate everybody coming out and answering some good questions and trying to further the practice. Heather, thank you so much for your presentation tonight, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.